history, there are more non-smokers in America than smokers. More ex-smokers, yeah. It's very, but what's happening is, it used to be, like in 1993, this is white smokers, that's African American smokers. And right now, blacks and whites smoke about equal rates. But if you look at Native Americans, they haven't virtually dropped it all. They're, in terms of our ethnic groups, and racial groups, the group that's had the least smoking cessation.
I also read a study showing some of the effects that you always thought was smoking, which I'll
huge, as we'll get, yeah.
Some of it was because of poverty.
Yes. Well, you'll see that. It's an interesting, the next slide speaks to that point. This just shows the difference. This is a 2005 CDC between African American white adolescents. And the lowest are black females. And then you have the split. And again, white smoking, adolescents, white smoking more than African Americans. Once black kids start smoking, though, they're a lot less likely to quit. And besides being a lot less likely to quit, the second one is the real interesting thing. African American men, and this has been replicated many times, are 50% more likely than white men to develop lung cancer. And they think a lot of this has to do with the reasons why people smoke and the stressors and the effect of racism and poverty and all those other things compounding it. And obviously, a lot of African Americans want to quit. At Howard, which is a historically black university, this is a population we are exceedingly interested in and why we got money from the Legacy Foundation. Here is very, very interesting. Whenever I say African American or anything, after being at Howard almost 30 years, I don't believe in any racial categories anymore. I mean, you say Asian and look at, look what really, it's silly. But what is, I mean, if you look at the differences in what's happening culturally in terms of the meaning of smoking, it's pretty dramatic. I mean, what are the gender differences in smoking behavior? All right. And, Korean men are almost like Native Americans in the proportion smoking. That's a...
Are these figures Koreans as in native Koreans?
No. These are all American Korean. This is CDC data. Yeah. We made these slides in a hurry right before I left, so we don't have all the things. All right, so basically the interest in doing this project came from the fact that it's the biggest killer on the planet, and I wanted to have a global type interest for a while. And it has very interesting issues about culture and meaning, which are important to me. And so I invented the program, Carla implemented the program, and those are the two doctoral students who will be, I'm going to present part of the data. One thing what I'll be doing, and I'm going to try to do it in 30 or 40 minutes so that we could talk, and I'll be as quick as I can, is I'm going to present two models. One is our assessment model, and the other is our treatment model, how we actually do it. And unlike many theories, these theories tell you how to do it, all right? Our view of smoking is that it's a real complex behavior. We don't believe there's one program for everybody. This is not going to cure everybody of smoking. Even how they market nicotine nowadays, there's so many different ways. The kids go to the hookah bars and they don't consider that smoking. You'll see some things here with Black and Milds, and kids look at that as different than cigarettes. And
You have chewing tobacco.
right, chewing tobacco is really big. And each of,
And you have 3 grades of it.
that's right. All these are cultures and ways of infusing nicotine into the culture and into people, and they each require a different. What this program, it'll be interesting, the population we have worked with, and we have dramatic results. I'll tell you the end point right now because there's 4 of you. We have reduced smoking 60, you'll see the slide, 63% within 5 weeks, 5 sessions.
That's a hell of a lot.
It's unbelievable. 25% of the kids stop smoking completely, and these kids are rough. They're rough in many ways. These, half of them haven't graduated high school. They were in, most of the kids we got were in, what's that program called, where you help America? You'll see. It's a government-sponsored program. They sort of, if they smoked, they were sent to the program.
So these are not just middle-class kids?
No middle-class kids in this, but this was a very hard population. The legacy money, which is the tobacco money, was funding for kids 18 to 30, and our average age is about 21. And we know that of adult smokers, 95% started smoking as adolescents. So if we can get them then, we'll be in good shape. All right, so why do we need new approaches? Because only 5% of any program works. And now this is cessation, not harm reduction, all right? What works? Well, we know that the more components you have to the program, the better it works, and the more one-on-one, the better it works. And it's like anything else. If you wanted somebody to change a behavior that's very ingrained, it's hard. If they're addicted, depends what you call an addiction, you've got to somehow invest an enormous amount of energy. This is not a cheap program. This is really, what we were thinking of is what would work. Not what works with the least amount of money or the least amount of human energy, just what works. Exactly, yes. And the fact is, that's a very interesting point, because we set this up as a 9-week program. The kids wouldn't come after 4 or 5, but they achieved such dramatic results, 25% of them stopping completely, that it became half the cost of what we thought it was going to be right there. And that goes along with all the tobacco literature, that most people will go to a tobacco cessation program 4 or 5 times, no matter what you're doing. All right, so now we're getting into how do we assess people. So we have sort of a complicated model, because we believe people are complicated. And basically we believe people smoke when they have 3 types of affect. They can be what we call, I forget the actual, we'll see the slide, what we decided to call it, but basically distressed emotions, okay? When somebody is stressed, sad, anxious, angry. We believe people smoke when they're really up and want to bond with other people. And we do believe, and you'll see, I'll show you, the existential boredom is a big cause of smoking. People do it when there's nothing else, when you're driving in the car, when you're alone, when you're bored, all right? There are also situational cues that we believe in, and our program is very situational based. It's called S3 because it's stopping smoking situation by situation by situation. And any of you that want the whole program, if you give me your email, I'll give you the slides and the program through the email afterwards. And the other reason people smoke, other than their affect, is because just the media tells them to smoke. That ours is a society still where smoking is glamorized. And we all know Joe Camel. Now this guy next, he just reminded me of the same expression as Joe Camel. Look at that. I mean, it's just sort of that same sort of happy, isn't it funny? That's Bob Marley smoking. That's very cool. That I thought could be me if I hadn't stopped smoking, so I stuck that one in. That's Laura Bush smoking. That I put in because gay guys are the largest group of increasing smokers.
Virginia Gay, they call them.
Oh, really?
Virginia Gray went to a campaign about 5 years ago where they have the Virginia Gray, cigarettes, and it shows 2 guys kind of hold hands sort of thing. And then the R has been sort of 3/4 drizzled out. So it looks like Virginia Gay.
Oh, I had not heard this.
They're part of the gay rights movement, which they are, so they were somehow. Virginia Gays, they call it, maybe the gay right.
But they've really succeeded because that shows up in city after city that, yeah, well, and that's that image. I put her in because she looked like my niece.
You've come a long way.
Maybe, exactly. And this, of course, is, the images are just in the, whether it's the affect producing that or the culture, it's a look. Here's the hookah bars, which I'm very interested in because,
I've never heard of hookah bars.
Oh, they're all over. I'm from Washington, D.C. You go in, and the nicotine goes through water, so the kids say it's not bad. And they go in, and you can have these even, they have hookah bars where the kids are too young to drink, and they just sit around and smoke all night.
In DC, we should marijuana.
Yeah, well, we have that too, but we don't have that. That's when you go home from the hookah bar. All right. All right, so how do people normally stop smoking? The first method most people use is the tick-tock method. Okay, I haven't smoked in a week. I haven't smoked in 14 years. Each talk I've gone to, people have talked about their struggle with tobacco. And using the tick-tock method is, your goal is to go another few hours, another year, to make sure you don't do it. Then there also is the counting method, which I was very good at, which is, okay, I'm a half a pack smoker. I smoke 2 cigarettes a week. It's not so much the time as the number of cigarettes that the person chooses. And then we have our method, which is called the straight up S3. And straight up is sort of just I don't know how widespread, it's a DC black word that sort of means honest. And basically what we do, I'll show you all the slides later, but basically what we did first is we did a study. We found out the 64, I think it is, situations in which kids smoke. Every possible, there aren't that many now that you can't smoke in a lot of places. We have all the situations. And we asked them, do you smoke in this situation? How much do you smoke? How much do you need to smoke? And what emotions do you have? And then what we do is we categorize them into the 3 affects that I showed you. Situations where you personally smoke when you're bored, situations where you personally smoke when you're with other kids having a good time, situations where you personally smoke when you're stressed. And then we use, for the old people, the desensitization hierarchy, and we simply tell people, pick the situation that's easiest for you within that one, okay? And then we have different strategies depending on the 3 affects, all right? Now, for people who are not verbal, it's amazing how this could work with kids that didn't read, because we didn't present it to them this way. We sort of talked them through it, and then we would say, you'll see there's one cute statistic up here that's very sad. 44% of our sample have a cigarette after sports. So the guys go out and do hoops, then they have a cigarette, all right? That's a major thing. So once we saw that and we see that on their hierarchy, we say to them, well, how hard would it be not to have one after you get done playing ball? And for other ones, though, I mean, we have done it with a few Howard undergraduate. I've done it with private practice clients. I just give them the leader manual. Because the idea is that you can be 100% effective in one situation. And that's enormously reinforcing for somebody who's trying to hit a very, as we know, difficult habit. So they say, okay, I'm not a failure. I stopped smoking after sex. I'm a success. And they may keep that. The other thing I love about teaching this to adolescents, as you'll see, is we're teaching them about emotions. And there's so little, just the idea that your emotions cause you to look for coping responses. And this as an educational tool for people who are not psychologically oriented or have been deprived of a psychological orientation, who don't read novels and aren't exposed, is invaluable. Some of these kids were shocked to make that connection. Absolutely shocked. No one had ever used that type of language with them. So our philosophy is very different than many other smoking programs. We say, no, you don't avoid those situations. You have to learn to be in the same situation. You have to confront your smoking situation with new strategies and master smoking situations with confidence, situation by situation by situation. So it's sort of like an onion. This is one model we have. I have another model with a train, where the situation is the file drawers. First you find out what's the situation after I play ball with my friends. The affect, that's the folders inside, okay, inside the file drawer. Okay, well, what do you feel after that? Well, I'm just going to go home and veg, so I'm just, bored. And then, who do they want to be in that situation? What kind of freedoms do they have? And this can become With these kids, we have a few of them on tape. Some of the best therapy sessions I've ever seen. And maybe it's because they're talking about smoking, but it's often hard to get this group to be reflective, to think about what their life means at any level, and to hear people talk about, well, okay, so I have, so I want to be cool with the guys, or I want to, these are my guys, and this is what we do for fun. And to sort of talk about, okay, well, what options do you have to get that feeling? What would happen if you didn't? The other thing is you could look at the situation as the train and the affect as the station stop, and then your particular house is how you act inside the house. I'm trying to work out some models so that when we train trainers, we'll be able to very easily do this. Basically, obviously, this is a harm reduction approach. With smoking, harm reduction's big, because if you cut your smoking in half, you cut your risk in half. It's almost 1 for 1, so it's really a good deal. Right now, to show you that great minds think alike, hopefully you'll be able to hear this. This is a U.S. Poet Laureate, oops, and he has a 1-minute poem on smoking that is exactly our program. So let me just get it up here. I don't need it because it's not. I have enough charge.
And this poem is, I think, soon to appear in poetry. Very easy, doesn't change his mind. I too am an ex-smoker, and this looks back on those days of yesteryear. It's called The Best Cigarette. There are many that I miss, having sent my last one out a car window, sparking along the road one night years ago. The heralded ones, of course, after sex, the 2 glowing tips, now the lights of a single ship. At the end of a long dinner with more wine to come and a smoke ring coasting into the chandelier. Or on a white beach, holding one with fingers still wet from the swim. How bittersweet these punctuations of flame and gesture. But the best were on those mornings when I would have a little something going in the typewriter. The sun bright in the windows, maybe some Berlioz on in the background. I would go into the kitchen for coffee, and on the way back to the page, curled in its roller, I would light one up and feel its dry rush coating the dark taste of coffee. Then I would be my own locomotive, trailing behind me as I returned to work, little puffs of smoke, indicators of progress, signs of industry and thought. The signal that told the 19th century it was moving forward. That was the best cigarette, when I would steam into the study full of vaporous hope and stand there, the big headlamp of my face pointed down at all the words in parallel lines.
It's a great poem. Just wonderful. What?
I hear you ex-smokers out there.
I rather than the program, I would have liked to have made the poem, but I didn't. So yeah. Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
I hate you. Go clean your room. I like it. Good. I love the way you touch my face. I hate you. Just back and forth like that.
There used to be a woman at Howard who did heroin addictions, was her specialty area, and she had an analytic approach, and she said that she wrote many things about heroin being the primary love object, that, you never attached, you attached to the heroin, and it is like it's like separating from your mother. So, because of the love. All right, so then here's what we were trying to do. We were trying to find a harm reduction program that focuses on individualized smoking situations, reduce smoking among young adults, and give them better coping skills in general. And they had to be between 18 and 30. They had to smoke at least once a day for more than 6 months. They couldn't have an alcohol and substance abuse disorder and not receiving treatment. This, of course, doesn't happen in Washington, D.C., because probably, well, we have that data. We have not looked at it yet. How many of them smoke marijuana, as well as other things? But they weren't pregnant, and they didn't have any psychiatric illnesses for which they were getting medication, this group. And we had a whole bunch of questions. But let me just go over here and show you. This was what I was describing to you before. This was for one situation. So we didn't give it to them. We sort of talked them through it. So if they said they smoked when eating in a restaurant, and the law was just passed last month in D.C., you can't smoke in any restaurants anymore. But at the time we did this, which was a few months ago, they could. And then they rate the urge to smoke. How hard is it to resist? How many cigarettes do you smoke? Satisfaction. How often do you do it? Because we didn't want people to pick situations that only happen once a month, because we wanted them to be able to get rid of situations. And here are a whole bunch of words, and these words then go into the categories that I showed you. So all of this is done sort of behind the curtain, in that these kids didn't literally fill this out. We sort of filled it out with them as we talked so that they would do it, okay? And in terms of theory or the model, what we're really interested in when we get to the treatment and we have these hierarchies is what's the difference between your arousal level and what's meaningful to you. I'm a great believer in state-dependent learning. The idea that if you study when you're smoking marijuana, you better take that test stoned. All right? And research has shown this again and again and again, that if you learn something, even a mouse learns if he learns the maze on a drug and then you take him off the drug, he doesn't remember the maze as good as if he's on the drug. So state-dependent learning is really powerful, and to me that says, what do drugs do? They arouse our body in different states. We all know that when we're sad, we can remember every miserable thing that ever happened to us, but when we're happy, who can remember any of them? So the idea of taking these situations and saying, okay, which are distress situations, which are happy situations, essentially, the bonding ones, and which one are just boredom. The idea of doing that was that we could create different therapeutic interventions, teach different coping skills to each category that could then be mapped onto the smoking behavior. So here's what we have. We have all our low energy situations, which is sort of the existential boredom. And the idea is that people in low energy situations need stimulation. We all are sensation seekers. Marv Zuckerman was one of my first teachers who made the sensation seeking scale. And we do. We all need sensations. If you are bored, you need to do something. And so the skills we give people who are smoking in the car because they're bored, or they're just lying on the couch doing nothing and they smoke because they're bored, is the coping skills we try to give them, the substitute behaviors, the options we try to explore with them are activity-oriented, okay? It doesn't mean necessarily that this isn't prescriptive in the sense that you must do this. It's prescriptive in the sense that the clinician would first look with the client in these areas because they're the most likely to be successful. All right. Then you have the negative energy situations or the distress situations, and these are really what people might call cognitive behavior therapy thing. If you're depressed and you go eat a cheesecake, that's a coping skill. It's not the best. If you're mad at your boss and so you go out and break and you puff a cigarette, it's a coping skill, but it's not the best. And in fact, they have just found out that these people who go out on break, I'm the NIH, and the saddest thing when you go to the National Institute of Health in Bethesda is seeing everybody outside smoking during their break. But that they have now discovered that when the people are on the break, they only have 10 minutes, they smoke deeper and quicker. And this apparently is a lot worse for your lungs than slower and not as deep, all right? So basically, though, we start talking about, okay, well, you're mad at your brother because he took your, basketball, all right? Well, so you had a cigarette. Well, let's think about what was there to get angry about. What are there different ways of thinking about that situation? That's why I said he could hook in with the anger management. He deals with abusive men in the same way. And then we have that sort of high energy bonding, these sort of very culturally related reasons for smoking. All right, now this is really hard because when people smoke, to enjoy being around other people, if it's bound in with cultural customs, it's very, very hard. And what we're using here that seems to work, and there's a lot of basic psychology implications for this, is we use visual images that are disgusting. And I'll show you one of those. That in order to break through somebody who's having a great time smoking or taking any drug, you have to really shock that person. I mean, why would they want to stop doing what feels good? In the other cases, they already feel bad in one way or another. All right, so we had 56 situations, and we empirically knew that these were situations, and then we took those words and made them into categories. Here is somebody, this is an actual person, this is number 02. So we can see these are the situations in which he smoked, all right? During breaks at work, when someone around him smoked, when he was offered a cigarette, when he was stressed, hanging out after lunch, whenever he was nervous, frustrated after breakfast, when he was around friends or relatives, seeing someone smoke on TV, driving first thing in the morning, okay? And then what we did is we took that same data. This is sort of what the therapists work with. So they end up here, and you can see that this person, all of these situations are when the person is what we call existentially bored, basically, okay? They have nothing else to do. They are by themselves eating lunch, then they have a cigarette. So the same type of coping skills may work equally well in here, all right? And then so you would, let's say we were dealing with this existential boredom, we would just say, you know, how hard would it be not to forego that first morning cigarette? And the person would say, oh no, that cigarette I love. Yeah. Well, how about, actually, in this case, the urge was only one. So they would probably do that one a lot more than taking the break at work. You would not suggest that that be the first situation they work on. You would try to do something with a low urge that has enough frequency. Again, and as we know, when people fill out questionnaires, they could be totally untrue. So when you sit down with the person, they might change all their urges, and you have to, you know, approach it clinically. But actually, the fact that we got such good results, all right, so right now, we did this about 3 weeks ago. There were 28. Now I think we're up to about 35, mostly African American. 40% had GED or less. 71% had an income of less than $12,000. I mean, we're not dealing with middle-class people here. And that's just the flow. Now, this is interesting. This is in Washington, D.C. 61% were cigarette smokers, but 11% were black and milds. And for those of you who don't know what black and milds are, they're sort of like a cigar. They're a cigarette, and you put it out, and then you start it again, and you put it out, and then you start. So you have it throughout the day, and it's very social. Like when you get together with your guys, you light up. And so that's why, oh, you'll see, you actually, the amount of nicotine, this has been shown before, is exactly the same that kids ingest. But you have fewer black and milds because you're using the same one for a few times. All right. And 52% were dependent according to DSM-4 criteria. The famous nicotine dependence scale, I won't go into it. The reason they showed low dependence there was because they're adolescents. And a lot of the questions, you had to be an adult to. And here's the number of sessions. And you could, I mean, 3 had 8. But you're getting by 4 or 5 the majority of them. And then they won't come back. Let me start. Excuse me a minute. And this is very preliminary data. This is just looking at the type of affect. These are the negative affects. How many said they were stressed or angry? The types of words they circled. And hanging out, 96% of them smoked. Clubs, that turns out to be a very hard smoking situation when they go out to dance clubs because it's social and they're anxious. So it has more than one, fits into more than one category. That's a very hard one. That actually may be the hardest. And look at the relationship with drinking alcohol.
They also frequently more, so smoke more beer or wine.
Absolutely, yes.
Actually, my clients seem to like alcohol, that's too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And there's that 44% who do it after sports. It's like sex. I thought it was cute that they were near each other. You think of sex as an athletic event. All right. Now, here you can see that the kids were smoking 2.45, then those cigars are Black and Milds. And that ends up to be the same amount of nicotine as 7.38 cigarettes. All right. And they all started smoking at around age 15. Now here's, of course, the result. This is the exciting part. Based on the 13 kids that we had who had done at least 5 sessions, 64% reduction in their smoking, 63% reduction for cigarettes, and 55% reduction for Black and Milds. My sense is that the Black and Milds are tougher because it's so socially bound. They don't really use the Black and Milds when they're bored. We haven't really gotten into all this data to look that carefully, but basically we reduced it 64%, and that is very, very impressive. Here's my graduate student, Robert, hasn't learned how to make a chart. I told him, because it looks like they're the same, because he used the wrong scale, but there really is quite a difference between the Black and Milds and the cigarette, and I think it will reach significance. All right, only one smoker showed no improvement. 4 individuals achieved full cessation. That's out of 18, so more than 25% stopped smoking completely, and no smoker increased their smoking. This is phenomenal for this age group. All right. Now we have 2 kids who I think we've done a 4-month follow-up. They have not gone back to smoking. I had a client who I did it with, a young guy. He was 26, and we went situation by situation. I mean, because I have him in therapy too, and we sort of have mixed the two. But he is now down to one situation, which is at school if somebody offers him a cigarette at the break, because he's so socially anxious. He just can't say no to that one yet. So, and actually, that cigarette I told him is our marker for him getting over his social anxiety, which was the original reason he came to see me. But the results, now here are the type of images with giving them on cards. Remember I told you that if they smoke like at clubs or at parties, we're making these, they're like calling cards. And you take out your calling card or you know it's in there, but they're real horrible images. That's one of them.
Have you heard of the slideshow called advertising?
No.
Okay, go online and punch in advertising.
Okay. Wait, I don't have it here. Wait, go ahead.
We got it for our office about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think a newer version of it now. There's a woman who worked for the dark side.
Yeah.
The dark company. And she got pissed off after what I call kicked to death. So she changed to the other side and did anti-smoking, asserted about 30 or 40 anti-smoking posters. These are posters, they also come with...
That would be ideal.
Yeah, they also come with slideshows that come with a projector.
You can download them for free.
You can download a version.
Okay, yeah. Right.
It's sort of a non-profit.
Right.
And they designed now programs for different ages of school, like
Great.
junior high, middle school, elementary school. And the person takes the manual plus the set of slides, the PowerPoint, and goes in and read stuff. And there's all these beautiful pictures. They're all gorgeous, high-quality colors.
You're very vibrant.
Like there's the Marlboro man, this macho guy with muscles, like whatever, and a nice unshaved chin. And in the background, there's an old man on a cancer ward in some document. And one of them is
like this one. Look at this picture.
Yeah, and you come along with it, and she's smoking, and the fetus is smoking.
You know, I've seen that one. That one I saw. Wait, what's the name of it again? Bad advertising.
You can't tell at first it's real, because it's a cigarette ad. So you look at the hazy picture background, and it's just brutal, ugly, like this and worse. But they're prettier at first glance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this, you know, I have heard of this actually happening when people have the tracheotomies, they still want to smoke.
Have you seen the DC commercial?
You're a nurse, right? You have seen this?
Have you seen the DC commercial on that?
No.
This beautiful one came out last year. Who's from DC here? Okay, the commercial on TV the last few months, it shows this woman, I would say, maybe early 60s, saying, they told me when I began smoking it wasn't addictive and blah, blah. And I worked with dark companies. But now, I know it is. And then said, Mary Smith died 4 months ago. So it's really...
You know, it's interesting. The idea with adolescents, because they don't think they're going to die, is to use, this one is just gross to look at, but they are very concerned about their appearance. And so when you tell them your clothes stink, you'll have bad breath, your teeth, that is motivational. So we have a lot of pictures of that type. And this first slide I had, all right, that idea that you get winded, that you're not going to be a good athlete, for the guys is motivational because they all know that they don't run as fast, that they're not in as good shape. They can feel it, especially at the age group where we're looking, where the guys are generally very healthy other than this behavior that they have. So in summary, the idea, you know, it's a complicated idea. It's not, again, this isn't an idea that you can just throw out. We're trying to make a manual, and I'm happy to give everybody the manual. We have a beta version that we'll have ready in 3 or 4 weeks. We're trying to make it as simple as possible to do something very complex, to work long-term with somebody on a very difficult health behavior, and stick with them and give them success and empowerment, and let them decide. This is a treatment for the people. You're a smoker. Where can you stop smoking? All right? Everybody intuitively knows they smoke, that their smoking is situation triggered. But they don't think of stopping situation by situation because the culture has taught us that either reduce the number of cigarettes you smoke or just go cold turkey. You know, this is the Great American Smokeout. I guess you have it in Canada too, where this is the day, throw away your pack. Well, we know people can't do this, but everybody can master a little situation, especially if it isn't just, okay, you know, instead of when you get up in the morning having a cigarette, spend that time flossing your teeth, which will keep your heart healthy, or, you know, whatever. Giving somebody coping skills. Why do you have a cigarette? Maybe you could put on your favorite music. Maybe you need weights. Maybe you need a different routine in the morning. Maybe you just, you know, my mother, she was a social worker who worked with the elderly and foster care her life, but her greatest invention, which she never did, was an alarm clock that how it woke you up was, and it's very profound because people need applause, all right? That is a great way we all want to wake up to applause. People who wake up and the first thing, and I can remember myself loving I used to keep the cigarettes on the side of my bed, and I would get up, and it was heaven. It was a great, great experience. But why? Because I was giving myself a treat, that it was a way of sort of being self-indulgent, of not, I guess there was nothing else exciting happening. No one had ever told me what else would make you feel good about yourself in the morning. Had I thought about that, since I never took great care of myself, I might have brushed my hair more, I might have plucked my eyebrows, I might have learned makeup, I might have learned a lot of skills I never learned. Instead, I had my cigarette, all right? So, and then who could this be good for? We're going to have to experiment a lot. I know we're going to get more funding to do it because our results are phenomenal.
It's great because people started for situation.
Right.
They don't start to smoke 24 hours per day. They pick some situation and from 1 to 2nd, from 3rd, and more, and you just taking them back.
Exactly. I'm going to use, can I steal this metaphor of yours? I like that. It is. It's like you didn't start smoking. Yes, that's how you started smoking. In a specific situation, then it became another situation, another, and it is going down the scale.
Situations is some history of this.
Exactly.
You can give them time.
Which makes your approach of systematically undoing that.
Exactly. It goes along.
When did it start? Because every situation is some event.
Right. Right.
When did it
Yeah.
apply for everything? Not just cigarette, for heroin, for alcohol, for any kind of addictions. If you will ask all the situations when it's acute.
You know something?
It's a general approach. And this reminds me, Jeffrey Tsai lecture yesterday,
Yeah.
when he mentioned Erickson, how Erickson helped him to stop smoking.
How?
I came here first time as a student, Ph.D. student, and he was smoking, and Erickson was listening and told, I have a friend, he's smokers. No, I have a friend and he is a smoker, but he doesn't know, he has all troubles, how to start, what much to take, where to sit, where to put his pipe, on the left corner, on the right corner, on the top. And for 45 minutes, he told all these boring stories about how hard to smoke for this person.
He kept saying he's alcohol.
Yes, and he's, yes, and he just deconstructed this whole gestalt of smoking by elements, by pieces, piece by piece by piece by piece, and every element is hard to do, and it's not how it is possible to do. And so I was just listen, and later on, in few weeks, maybe he had inside what I need to stop smoking. So
you know what?
Stop somehow. You also saw just deconstructing this gestalt of smoking.
Right.
Because I don't know when I need to smoke, why I need to smoke. I'm just smoker, that's all. And you deconstruct piece by piece. Piece by piece. And it's easy to
But you know what? I didn't recognize it was you.
Yes, it's me.
I have to tell you about this guy who you don't know. No, he should get with talk. He has developed the best. No. He has developed the best clinical method I have ever seen in my life. We are near each other. He's actually supervised my students. I have. He has, which is it's drenched with meaning. It is the single best technique I know. I really, it's wonderful. It is. No, but we'll go back to the smoking. But if you ever have a chance to hear him, go for it. It's really, it's wonderful.
I am presenting tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
Some piece. Yes, by the way, at 4 o'clock, it will be my presentation with one of my friends of heroin addiction.
Okay, all right.
It will be at 4 o'clock.
It's great.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm not sure. Like I said, to me, life is complex. This will work for some segment of people. The question is finding out who. And it is interesting. Might it work for another? I mean, I know a lot of time.
Given the effects of some of the other medication or drugs on parts of the brain, it might work. But
Right.
the other thing is, how would this approach work with adults who are really profoundly physiologically addicted to that permanent neural pathway starting in the brain?
But I'll tell you, I have done it with one adult on smoking, a guy 56 who had a heart attack and really wanted to stop smoking. Now, he was very motivated, and I really do think he probably would have stopped no matter what, but he was a dream. He had 4 or 5 situations, and literally it was week by week, and he stopped. I mean, but again, he had a heart attack, but we know that, the biggest predictor, the biggest predictor of a second heart attack once you have one is depression. But right after that is if you're a smoker, continued smoking. So, he had an enormous incentive to not do it. To me, the bigger challenge is how to train people to deliver this type of therapy about it's who you are in this situation and what this situation means to you. That's why you're smoking. That's it.
And this is not you, it's just situation.
Right.
It's not you, you're something else.
Right.
And kill them piece by piece.
But, it's and what I think kids like about it, right? And again, these were by and large uneducated, dropout out of life. Not half of them had graduated high school, but they felt like they were Sigmund Freud. They really did, saying, you know what? I'm angry when that boss tells me to pick up the garbage in the McDonald's. I can't stand that. AmeriCorps is where a lot of them work. Okay. To think, okay, well, that's why when I go out on my break, I need a cigarette. To them, they had just literally never connected, I'm angry, and that's what I do when I'm angry. No, but that is something. Yes. In fact, one of the graduate students has been using that. We don't have it in yet, but.
And it is very close for rational, emotional, behavioral therapy.
Yes. Yeah. No, it. Right.
A, B, C, event, trigger.
again, I think somebody who's, I'm very existentially oriented, so I could use it that way. Somebody who's very CBT could do it that way. Somebody who's Gestaltian visual would love it because those visual cards are just, I want to make we'd have to make them. I was going around Vancouver trying to find people smoking because we wouldn't have copyright, to make a deck of cards that have these horrible images.
There's one industry of called Plot Out.
Yes.
There's also one that shows a bunch of animals smoking.
Really?
Like a frog and a cat and a chicken smoking. Really, they like stupid, but look at them.
I've seen that on a billboard. I have seen that.
But they're afraid of the industry.
Yeah, yeah. Now again, and the last thing I just want to say is that most smoking programs, unfortunately, have a 5% success rate. Now again, that's not harm reduction. A lot of harm reduction programs show about 40% reduction. So we're,
5%'s humongous.
oh yeah, Cessation is humongous, and a reduction of 64% is still more than you're getting in other types. However, ours is intensive. It's not in a group. It's one-on-one. It's individualized to what you want to work on.
How many sessions were there?
Well, we were willing to go up to 8, but by 5 you get most people.
Is that 5 1-to-1 or group session?
5 1-to-1. We actually did the interviews. We started off with 2 or 3, and then we went to all individual interviews. And again, as we get...
But 5 sessions is not a lot.
It's not a lot, no. But again,
The current vogue of brief therapy,
Right.
6 or 8, I mean, that-
Right, no, definitely. And once we automate this, we will put this on the computer so that all the situations come out coded and that a counselor can just immediately start talking with a person about which situation do you want to stop smoking in and start telling them, how do you feel in this situation? You wrote this down, is that linked to what you're feeling, to what you're doing, and what does it mean to you?
Have you approached any research people, like the fellow that was talking, Scott Tongman,
Yeah.
to do a big study?
No, we haven't done that
You
yet.
get like 200 or 300 kids in this study.
Right.
And 3/4 of them finish the program, then you've got like.
Right, then we're ready to,
Bestseller.
exactly. Now we're going to try to get another year of legacy money, which we're allowed to get. And I think these results, we'll submit this in a few months. And then Carla will probably put in for an R01. And she's at the Cancer Center, where tobacco is a big thing, but she'll partner with other people. Again, because I'm not really a tobacco specialist. That's just not my research expertise. But I am very excited about this program, and I'll train trainers. I'll be involved in it in that way.
Along with mindfulness, have you ever thought about throwing in some acupuncture?
Well, I'm a great believer in acupuncture myself for my own body, but I haven't thought of it. So you wouldn't take a lot to convince me.
No, but that's coming a lot in addictions counseling and using some detox places now. Especially the executive version.
Really?
Years, yeah. And what they found, they also use it to replace methadone plants.
I have heard that. I have heard that.
Trust me, a tough one to get. So there's some research now showing it blocks the cravings a lot. Secondly, what it does is the kids or the people that get it,
Yeah.
right, they like this stuff. They like to relax with this little
Yes.
wisdom Chinese master putting zapping, right? And they had this experience of serenity and cross-cultural transference. And in fact, the whole clinic, it was a methadone clinic, got calmer and people weren't robbing each other's,
Really?
Because they were getting their aches and pains cured. They were like, well, doc, can you get me from my bad doc? Well, that feels better, right? So it not only dealt with the actual craving in the ear, whatever the 2 or 3 points were, but the guy would give him a couple more needles, not this kind, in the ear, for other stuff. And they were starting to stand, laugh, and they were calm. Normally they'd be fighting in Albert, I want my methadone first, and I want to sell it to my friend who spit meth. You know what spit meth is? It's where you sell it.
Yeah. You spit it.
But they weren't. They were also standing there almost doing like meditation, waiting for their turn for the guy to give them the zap.
Well, I've had many young girls tell me that no, you know how they stick the earring in their tongue? That helps them stop smoking. It takes away the craving. And my acupuncture said because it's on that meridian.
Same with some of
So-
them in the ears.
That's what you was, for anxiety, right. And that's so, is it Xanax or 6 earrings? Have your choice, maybe. People have their DSM category out there, according to that.
South Bronx, and the other one was on the South Dakota Sioux Reservation.
Yeah, I think if you Google it, because I have seen that, I have heard it too. It's very interesting.
If you chuck that in, I'm giving you more.
Yeah, no, this is what I need. Again, can you rip out a piece of paper so that, just put your emails down. I have Dr. Cronix, but you can put your new email down. Well, they had to say that they wanted to quit smoking. We had varying degrees. We gave incentives. The grant gave us incentives so that they got, I think it was $5 McDonald's food coupons each time they came. And if they got done with 8 sessions,
But
they got
coupons,
something.
not cash, that was good.
Coupons, yeah. But once they had to come see us, but if they said no, they didn't really want to stop smoking, we didn't use them. You know, if they said, I'm not going to do. But I think they said of the people who came, and again, I have to, I wasn't the one actually doing this. It sounds like most of them who came had some level of, they didn't have to be very motivated.
They were at least contemplating on
They had to be willing to come. We couldn't coerce them to come.
You use that motivational wheel.
Yes.
He did smoking research too. However, he wasn't too well thought of in smoking research. The commenting for Chaska.
Yeah.
The wheel changed is a wonderful model.
But
I work with psychiatrists who critique his stuff. The best to avoid some of his techniques.
Yeah.
They were anti-smoking.
That's
But
interesting.
the wheel was good.
The wheel they use, do you know that wheel that he's talking about? They use it for the abuse with men.
It's called the trans-theoretical model of change. It's been in Dixie for the last 15 years. Have you seen it?
It's very good.
It's a good way of looking at change. Yes. The wheel change.
Right, yeah. That's, it's a very good, I like that. It's a good, yeah. But it's, I always look for things that organize the knowledge. Actually, I'm reading a book now. This was the book I brought. Talk about complicated models. I don't know if any of you have read this. This is so hard, but I figured, it's just about how space and time work. And
Looks like string theory or something.
yeah, I guess I don't know if I'll get up that far, but I was thinking,
You're also using music meditation.
yes, because of course with this group, young people, music is everything. And they have brought it to us,
Well, think back to if you're old enough for the 60s and 70s, music was everything for
Right.
your fucking money.
See that? You're just sighing with us.
You're only supposed to
Yeah.
Can I ask you whether you'd like to share this exposure from this?
I've looked back and saw if it was definitely one-on-one. I don't think I would have stopped smoking. My husband was a runner, and I smoked when I met him, and I smoked while we were engaged, and I was a very positive person in my youth. I was really, really what people would describe always happy, and looking back on this, he used the shock image. He would say, you're going to die, you're going to have lung cancer when our baby's 2 years old. He would say these terrible things all the time, and I was a cheery person, but I had death anxiety. I had existential issues going way back. And really, at some point, first I stopped smoking in the house. I did it as most people do. I look back. First I stopped smoking in the house. Then I stopped smoking in the car. And my last thing, I do remember, I used to love to go out in the backyard and smoke. I always say, thank God I didn't take cocaine, because...
You stop situation by situation.
Say, right, I did. I undid it just the way...
But the true addicts truly love their drug.
Yes,
Some other addicts get tired and won't quit.
Right.
But a lot of them say, I love cocaine or I love heroin, but I'm sick of the side effects.
right.
And if I could have all the heroin in the world, live on Fantasy Island, no cops ever bust me, I'd do it until I croaked or orange juice.
As I tell my students all the time, people take drugs for a reason. They feel good. This is what you have to start off with, this premise, that people don't take drugs because it makes them feel bad. Always the rewards are greater than, and when it turns out it costs more than it is making you feel good. That's, the guy was talking about bottoming out when in the other room. Basically, that's what he was saying. At some point you say, you know what? I'm not getting enough of what I want out of life because of this. The costs are greater than the rewards. I'm going to stop. Mm-mm.
I think people still take drugs, any drug of choice, too, after they start feeling bad for quite a while. because
That's
they're
right.
in that habitual behavior. And they just
That's
think,
right,
well,
well-
it makes me feel bad that what else am I going to do?
Exactly.
You know, they get lost or.
You get permanent neural pathways too, maybe.
And yet, with the kids, I find it's very interesting hearing the graduates, the type of narratives they've developed. And one of them is, every time you do something different in this situation, you're growing as a person. Do you want to be a robot that only knows to do two things in this situation? And that, that's very empowering for people just getting their identity.
Or ask them, do you want to have a master?
Right, that's a good one.
You want to be a slave?
Right.
I mean, fertile and invulnerable. Well, you got
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, your higher power is called me.
Look at him.
Every day you worship and you pay tithes.
That's right. That's right. It's a powerful, as well as all addictive things are that are bad for us.
One of my employees has her students do collages like in Canada, you can't advertise cigarettes in magazines no more.
Yeah.
But American magazines, you can, thank God, in magazines. So she had cut out all these sleazy ads for cigarettes and make a collage. And they resented the fact somebody was trying to suck them in to make money. Because freedom's so important to teenagers.
Yeah, anything that empower, and it's important to all of us that we all see. The idea of growing is, for most people, very a positive thing to strive for.
How did you develop this situation?
Empirically, we interviewed lots and lots of kids wherever we are. Just, where do you smoke? Where do you smoke? And we just.
But it's mostly more universal, or it's just for adolescents?
The list we have is pretty universal, actually, but we only developed it on adolescents. But adolescents meaning up to 25, so they were working. Some of them, we have most life situations.
When it started.
Yeah, but we don't have situations that middle-aged people might, stressors, particular situations. The kid crashes your car, or your kid is bad with money, or right, exactly. Yeah. So, we could tailor it a lot more. Mostly, you need these situations. This is a time saver, so you don't have to just reinvent the wheel each time that people can tell you. Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, we'll have good standardization now.
When I was young, obviously, a long time ago, adolescence was till 19.
Not anymore, man.
And now, everything you read is between 25 or thereabouts. Now that
Because brain development.
yes, because the gray matter, the white matter goes to your 50s.
Oh, we're still teenagers. Or just out of being our teenage years.
But isn't it funny how our generation has changed the definition of that? And now old people, when I was young, we're 65, you were, we used to call it old person. And now,
My point of view is midlife crisis.
yeah, it's
The midlife crisis have shifted from 40 to 60.
But now,
You have a long time to go, guys.
but now there's young old, and old, or the actual classifications in the government system.
Yeah,
If-
right, because but the question is, and this is an interesting question, in terms of all behavior change, are people clearly when you're young, it's easier to change behaviors, even like smoking, than when you get old. Well, heroin, people,
Is that a belief or is that true?
I don't know. I know that, if you look at something like heroin, they bottomed out. I worked with heroin addicts all through graduate school in the 60s. They weren't polydrug users. They were truly heroin addicts.
Now you don't find
You don't find anybody taking any drug anymore because they take whatever they can get, and they're very democratic, whatever's around. And people don't, in D.C., I don't think I've seen anything but a polydrug user. There are no purists left.
I had two what I call John Boy Waltons.
Yeah, they have.
Healthy, functional families that drink too much.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
I have got some comments for your
Yeah.
Korean day. Your show what Koreans, Americans
Yeah.
smoke.
Yeah,
It was some publication recently what in Korea
yeah.
people smoke, but rate of cancer is very low
How come?
because we drink,
Ginseng.
we drink green tea.
Oh, the green, they think it's the green tea?
Something to
Like the antioxidant or something.
something good to protect you from cancer.
Well, I'm not so sure. I'd have to see that on Korean Americans because a lot of the stuff that they show is true in China.
But maybe Korean Americans did drink green tea. It was in Korea.
And in Japan as well, they have a
Well,
low incidence.
They have a low
Well,
in.
Low
Low
incidence
incidence.
of cancer.
And one of my friends,
China's very high in there,
In Japan.
It boosts the immune system, green tea.
Well, I know green tea does that, but you would think, I'm surprised because Japanese men do smoke a lot. I mean, how much is a cigarette?
Oh, not, much less taxes probably.
in Japan.
Do they have, are they more potent, or do they, you know, they're more nicotine per cigarette?
But we have a lot of vending machines everywhere for the cigarettes.
And you can you smoke in restaurants in Japan?
And this
So
also,
they,
See, now, as a worldwide thing, this is really what makes me so sad, and one reason I like tobacco as an area. The fact that really, in the world, like, look at Japan, you think of Japan as so, in many ways, more advanced than us, and they're letting people smoke.
but it was,
so is France. In France.
France is very big.
Everywhere in France, and if you're an anti-smoking person, you're like tarred together.
But they have cancer in,
it was told to me by our nurse.
yeah.
It was a big effort. He said, "What the most dangerous is not tobacco. The tobacco by itself is not so bad.
It's the nicotine.
But all these pesticides.
The pesticides, the 100,
What
yeah.
what is given
Right.
to tobacco grew up.
In a cigarette, there's 220 carcinogens in it, different carcinogens.
But I've heard some of that too, but like.
So-
I think that
Yeah.
the tobacco in itself is harmful, addictive, and dangerous. It's worse when it's pesticide. It's better when it's organic. But you have to be careful not to let
Well, that's what they say in the hookah bars. Have you been to a hookah bar? You're young.
Great.
Have you been to one?
Yes, they spray on it. But they should, I think they go themselves.
Well, you know, when they chew the tobacco, they have all the mouth cancer and throat cancer.
Well, the company's now designed 3 levels of
Yes, potency.
potency. The first one is kind of called amazing. They mix it with what we call green mint. It's a candy, which is a little bit less.
It's to introduce you.
Doesn't it have the one for the, say, 10 to 12-year-old crowd, which has more nicotine and some candy. Then they have cocaine, which is the heroin version of it, where it's pure stuff. But they can put on the candy. And this is an official, legal marketing strategy. It's so grossly immoral.
It is. I mean, you know, again, this to me says it all. This is it.
Well, something we want to check on one day, it's in the House of Commons record in Canada. A couple of years ago, I did the actual transcript, and it was widely sent out. This woman who was representing the document joined some commission, some Korean people, and spoke, she said, you should not ban us, you should thank us, you know. That how can you be costing us billions of dollars on lung cancer?
Come to what table?
And she said, we kill people off faster. So these graphs, and she's bright, here's your non-smokers, and they'll get, I don't know, Alzheimer's disease or dementia, or, you know, strokes and brain disease and shit. It costs more to take care of these old folks when you're out there, and if I come off under 70 from cancer. And actually, she was right.
Well, you know,
She mentioned the ethics of saying that. And publicly, in the commission, that's smiling. Of course, she
yeah, no, because there isn't, when my son asked me, when I said, oh, we spoke on it, he said, oh, no, it's good to have smokers because they're not a drain on the economy because they get cancer early, they get lung cancer, they die, and hence they don't have they don't draw more resources. But I looked it up on the internet, and in fact, you have lost productivity for all the years you're smoking and increased health, of course, so that.
Well, regarding the long fashion, you put that out as an argument, you brag about it.
Yes. Yes.
Also, what do you have to do with one colleague of teenage customers? He is the competition with customers. He told me what years later showed it was huge decrease of smoking in the United States, but rate of cancer did decrease. And the most important cause for this lung cancer is not anything but Not electricity, with all these big buildings, air
Oh,
conditioning.
the circulation.
Circulation of this whole stuff, this is very important.
Well, there are new sources affecting our lives.
What is it about the air circulation that's limited?
Well, just,
Air circulation.
yeah,
Circulation in big buildings, office buildings.
it's stale air, everybody's cough, everybody's virus, everybody, all the dirt, all the,
So the poor air circulation.
This flow system.
when they stopped opening windows, they made us all sick. Windows were a good invention.
Yes, windows closed.
Really, I just, yeah,
At least Washington DC.
yeah.
Jumping out of the window.
Yeah. I had
Chair,